All right, you can start letting people in.
Wait, where is it? Okay, I'm gonna let them in.
Mm-hmm. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
All right, we'll just wait a few minutes to make sure that everyone gets in, and we'll get started in a little bit. How's everyone doing today?
Good.
Good?
Mm-hmm.
Where's everybody from?
Hi.
Hello.
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire, cool.
San Diego.
Oh, okay, nice. Just give it a couple more minutes. All right, so shall we get started?
Okay, we can.
Yes. All right, so hi everyone. Thank you for being with us tonight for our webinar on how to co-learn travel. So since things are getting a bit more improved in the world, we thought we'd inspire you guys by giving you some ideas for some very unique forms of travel. So just a quick mention, we're going to be putting this webinar up on YouTube later. So just in case you guys miss anything as we go through, you can get all the information there again. So, yes. So I'm Juliana from JoinMyTrip, and I will be your host tonight, but I also have great support tonight from Akshya.
That's me. Hello, everyone. I'm Akshya. I am really looking forward to sharing some helpful information tonight to get you guys inspired, because we both definitely were while preparing for this webinar. So before we start, we'd like to share some house rules with you. We'd like to remind you guys to keep yourself muted during the webinar. And if you're not sure how to do it, you will find the button in the left corner. But don't worry, you will have a lot of opportunity to ask your questions at the end of the webinar in our question section. We'd also like to remind you to please use the chat respectfully. Also, it'll be an amazing way to share your feelings by using reactions during the webinar. So you can find them by clicking the button in the bottom middle. So Juliana, what do you think? Should we try it now? So are you guys ready for the webinar today?
All right, so for the ones that are new with us, we'd first like to introduce you a bit to JoinMyTrip, who we are and why we are putting on this webinar. So have you ever been faced with the challenge of wanting to go on maybe a specific trip, and you were very excited and couldn't wait to start planning, but then you couldn't find anyone to go with you, maybe because they didn't have the time or didn't like the trip idea and you ended up not going at all? We realized that a lot of people were facing this problem, and that's why we created the platform JoinMyTrip. So this platform is a place where we connect trip leaders and trip mates. Trip leaders are the ones organizing and planning trips. They publish their travel plans on our platform, and interested trip mates can request to join their adventure. And as a trip leader, you actually get to earn a bit of money for organizing, which is pretty cool.
Exactly. So whatever your budget is, wherever you want to go, or whatever type of travel activity you prefer, there are so many different options and opportunities. So whether you'd like to be the one organizing or simply just packing your bags and joining along. So we have all of those options for you guys. So currently our community has over 140,000 plus strong members, and we are growing every single day. So one thing I always like to say is that we represent the world's largest community of trustworthy travelers.
Right, and that's really why we're putting together these events, so that we can have a place to connect fellow travel lovers and empower you guys to explore together. So if you'd like to know a bit more, feel free to check out our website. We'll post that link in the chat for you guys now. By the way, we're going to be posting a few links in the chat throughout the webinar, so you can check them out there, but also we'll send you guys a list of all of the links that we discuss at the end, so don't worry. So Akshaya, do you want to give our audience an overview of what we'll be talking about tonight?
Of course, I'm very excited. So first would be a very good introduction of what exactly co-learning is. And then we will be taking a look at all the different kinds of activities that can fall under co-learn travel. So for example, for the adventurous, it will be all about outdoor activities such as surfing and climbing. And for the more health conscious like me, or at least I would like to say, we'll get a more bit into wellness activities such as meditation and yoga. So all things calming. And finally, for all those into the creative side of things, we'll go into some culture and art activities. And finally, for all those of you, we'll give a few of our top destination picks so you can get a bit more inspired for where to start planning your next trip. So Juliana, let's discuss what exactly is co-learning.
Yes, so co-learning is simply learning together. So just coming together with others and supporting each other in your growth and acquisition of new skills. So learning something while traveling is not a new concept, of course. However, travel with the express purpose of collaborative learning in mind is something that can be new and exciting for a lot of people who maybe haven't ventured into that form of travel before. So the types of things you can learn can fall under all sorts of categories, as we said before. So some might make sense and be something you've already done yourself, like skiing and whatnot, which we'll mention later. But as well, we'd like to broaden your horizons a little bit, just take you a little bit outside of the box and teach you how to have a super unique and fulfilling trip where you come back even more enriched and skilled than before, and perhaps even have a new hobby.
Exactly. So this is something that I absolutely recommend, because trying something new or learning something new can never be defined by age. So on to our first category, which is water activities. So there are a lot of courses with many different forms out there, but our top recommendation would be surf and kite surfing lessons. So this is a classic co-learning activity. You can find these lessons all over the world, pretty much anywhere where there are waves. But our favorite picks are first in Hawaii, an absolute famous destination for surf classes and camps. We won't give you specific recommendations as there are many different surf camps across the different islands, and I'm sure you can find them on Google easily. Next is Agadir, which is in Morocco, where you'll find stunning beauty and some high quality waves. Plus, you get to experience Moroccan cuisine, which is my absolute favorite. Third, we have got Sardinia, Punta Tretu in particular, as it's considered one of the best kite surfing spots in Europe and in the world. This is a perfect kite surfing beach, especially for beginners and for people like me, because it's shallow enough that you can stand up and walk if you need to. Lastly, we have Dominican Republic, which is a great destination for learning how to kite surf. In particular, we'll recommend the town of Cabarete, which is a hotspot with several kite surfing schools to check out. One thing that we would recommend is to try visiting this place in winter, because the waves are especially beautiful at that time of the year.
They all sound super beautiful, but I'm not going to lie, surfing is one of those things I think I still need to work up some courage for. So for our first water trip highlight, we're going to show you guys this really interesting surf and yoga retreat in the Algarve from our site. So this is by trip leader Andrea, as you can see. The trip runs for 1 week from the 26th of June and includes 5 days of surf lessons, with each day starting and ending with a yoga session, which sounds pretty cool. So that link will be in the chat for you guys to check out.
Perfect. I would also like to highlight here another cool kite surfing co-learning trip, which is my favorite as well, in Western Sicily, which is available from now until the end of October this year. The trip will include stops in Marsala, Trapani, and Mascara del Vallo. So the best thing is you will be able to receive a certification afterward. So again, Emily would be giving you the link in the chat.
So on to our next activity, which is sailing courses. So for those of you that like to live out your inner pirate dreams, but you won't need to buy an entire own boat for this, don't worry. So first up, we'll have Croatia. It's a paradise for sailing enthusiasts because it has these gorgeous picturesque coastlines and really beautiful weather. So there's a range of sailing schools to choose from all around the coast, so you can check that out. Next is Tahiti in French Polynesia for a luxury sailing course. So we're going to specifically recommend one from Nautilus, which is a sailing school because it provides students with a live aboard experience, which is pretty cool. So the link for that one will be in the chat if you would like to check it out. Third up, we've got the Seychelles if you'd like something a bit more tropical. So it's a really breathtaking place to learn how to sail because it's got a lot of different isolated islands and secluded bays. So finally, one close to my heart as I grew up swimming in Lake Ontario is the Great Lakes. So they're among the top freshwater destinations in the world and provide sailing enthusiasts with a lot of different conditions and a huge number of destinations to sail around. So if you're looking to learn how to sail on the Great Lakes, there's a really cool sailing school called the Great Lakes Sailing Co. And we'll post the link in the chat for them as well if you'd like to check that out.
Yeah, Julian, all these options sound really great. So we have one such sailing trip which involves a picturesque coastline. So our trip leader Riaz will be offering a series of sailing trips all throughout June. So send him a message if you're interested to know more. Juliana will be giving you the link for that trip.
Yes, that'll be in the chat. No worries.
Okay, so last up in this whole water series, we have diving classes. Even without certification, you can take courses at so many different diving spots around the world where an instructor could guide you through the whole process and take you through the underwater world. Here's some of our picks for diving destinations. So first in the category is Indonesia, scuba diving Raja Ampat in particular, which is pretty unique. And it's one of the best places in the world to see high number of reef sharks and manta rays. Next is Koh Tao in Thailand. So while this island is small in size, the underwater scenery is really amazing with vibrant reefs and great shipwrecks. And third is Fiji. Now, there's plenty of different schools around for day trips or full-on certification in Bly, and it provides some of the most beautiful soft coral dive sites in the world for you to explore. And last is Valenta in Malta, which has like good clear waters and rocky scenery. The island are super good for diving. Also, there are over 80 ship and aircraft wrecks in Maltese water for you to definitely check out.
That sounds really cool. I'm going to have to put that one on my list to be able to see like an underwater wreck while diving. That's really awesome. So our next trip highlight will be this really cool scuba diving trip on Elba Island in Italy. That's by our trip leader, Ricardo. So this one runs anytime between now and October, and it will include 4 days of lessons in the Mediterranean. So if you're interested in checking that out, again, that will be in the chat.
Okay, so I think we have talked enough about water now. So let's move on to some recommendation for land co-learning activities. It's super broad again, but there are loads of potential activities in this category. So Juliana will give you some of our favorite picks.
Let's do it. So first up, we have climbing lessons. So whether indoor or outdoor, there are honestly loads of climbing centers around the world, but if you'd like to go traveling while climbing, it's best to find a location that gives you lots of really cool outdoor climbing activities, as you can get really great views that way. So first up is Yosemite. So it's known as one of the world's greatest climbing areas, of course. So whether you're a beginner or an expert, there are a huge variety of different types of climbs to choose from. So the Mountaineering School in Yosemite offers daily classes for all levels. So if you're interested in checking out how to climb in Yosemite, we'll put the link in the chat for you now. So next up, we have the Canary Islands in Spain. So volcanic eruptions and erosion have helped to create these really cool vertical cliffs and overhangs that allow you to do a large different selection of different types of climbing routes. So that's pretty cool. So third up, we have Madeira in Portugal. So it's usually known for amazing landscapes and walks, but the climbing there is also pretty amazing. So the climbs range from easy and beautiful climbs to some more challenging ones if you'd like to do that a bit. And finally, we have the Rocklands in South Africa. So the Rocklands have been hyped by professional climbers for years because the varied red sandstone offers something for everyone, and the style resembles kind of indoor rock climbing because the walls are so steep.
Juliana, you were talking about surfing that scares you the most, but for me, definitely it's climbing.
Understandable.
Makes me so nervous. So let's move on to something that I enjoy personally. We have got cycling tours. We are sure most of you know how to cycle, but in different terrain, you will definitely need some new training. So first up, we have got Isle of Wight. The island is tailor-made for great cycling with over 200 miles of cycle routes through some of the most scenic countrysides in UK. Next, we have got Colorado, specifically Boulder in North America, base for professional cyclists. Being on the edge of the Rockies, there's a possibility of doing some serious riding, none of which would be below 1,600 meters in altitude. Aspen is also stunningly beautiful and another great cycling destination. Third up is Lake Garda in Italy, the largest body of water in the country, and its beauty attracts thousands of cyclists who throughout the year rush to the northern banks of the lake. And lastly, we have Loire Valley in France, a unique 800-kilometer cycle route which stretches around 800 kilometers, and it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Awesome. All right, so we've got a trip highlight that involves some cycling for you guys. So this one is a tour by trip leader Francesco, which is super stunning. It takes place from the 18th to the 20th of June through the Lazio region of Italy. So you have some gorgeous mountain views, and you'll actually be able to explore a couple old monasteries as well, which is pretty interesting. So the link for that trip will be in the chat. So that takes us to our third activity. So we have skiing or snowboarding lessons for the winter months, of course. It's another classic co-learning activity because honestly, it's the best winter activity that I can think of. So first up, we have St. Anton am Arlberg in Austria. So yes, it has always been really famous for its beauty, reliable snow, and the excellent conditions of the slopes. So it's a really great place to learn how to ski. So next up, we have Val d'Isère in France, which offers a vast ski area with great snow and optimal weather conditions for skiing. So temperatures are usually around sub-zero during the day or at night and during the entirety of winter all the way into April. So you have quite a bit of time to go skiing there if you'd like.
Perfect. Yeah, I have one as well, which is Whistler, Canada. This place is apparently the best ski resort in the world and the biggest in North America with world famous ski lessons. So you can even study to be an instructor there if you would like. So Emily will give you the link again in the chat. Finally, we have got Nisio in Japan, which is famous for its stunning views at Mount Yoti, as well as consistently good quality snow throughout the winter.
So by the way, guys, if all of these recommendations have left you feeling a bit inspired and you'd like to put together one of your own trips, so our colleague Anna will be hosting a webinar on Thursday, June 10th. And it will take you guys through the whole process of putting together one of these trips from start to finish. So we'll put the link for that webinar in the chat. However, if you're not able to make it, you can always check out a past recording of this webinar on our YouTube page. That link will also be in the chat. And if you'd like something a bit more personal, if you'd really like to do this, but you're not sure how, so Anna also offers 15-minute one-on-one onboarding meetings where you guys can go over the specifics and she can answer all of your questions. So yeah, we'll put that in the chat as well. Remember, all of these links will be sent to you afterwards, so don't worry if you miss them as we go through. So Akshaya, back to the recommendations.
Yes. Next is my favorite topic, which is outdoor survival training. So for those of you wanting to get back into the wild, again, all of these activities you can make a part of your travels, whether you're a pro or just trying it out for the first time. You're certain to have a good time for sure. So first we have Alaska. Any kind of trip to Alaska is an adventure. But every June, the organizers of Expedition Alaska put on what many consider to be the most challenging adventure race in the world. Next, we have New Zealand with the Spike Coast to Coast, which happens every February, a multi-sport adventure race on New Zealand's South Island. So don't worry, the atmosphere is more of a fun run, so nothing too hardcore. But if you dare to really test your survival skills, maybe try out one of the world's most inhospitable places, which is the Australian outback. Australia's most legendary survivalist, Bob Cooper, has a survival school there for those of you wanting to try it out. And lastly, we mentioned the UK as a great destination for outdoor survival, particularly because of all the offerings of the Bear Grylls Survival Academy across the country. There are different options that look really interesting, and we'll link that website again for you to check it out. All right, onto the CoLearning wellness section. There are so many different wellness retreats all over the world, giving you guys plenty of options. So Juliana, do you want to talk about all things holistic?
Let's do it. So first up, we have yoga, of course, for beginners all the way to certified instructors. So yoga as well as meditation. So there's a trip for everyone for these types of trips, which is really nice. So first up, we have the classic choice of Bali, Indonesia. So there are countless really beautiful yoga studios and retreats all over the island. So we're going to post a link of the top 10 listed by Culture Trip of their picks for places around Bali. Second up, we have Uttarakhand. And the beautiful Ananda retreat in the Himalayas. So the spiritual journeys are personalized after extensive discussion with the traveler and can be customized to each individual guest, which is really nice. So if you're interested in that, we'll put that in the chat. So surprisingly, we've got Mexico on our list as it's fast becoming what they call the Bali of the Americas when it comes to yoga. So Sayulita is the ultimate hippie surf town with an abundance and variety of yoga offerings. But if you're looking for something a bit more Instagrammable, you can check out Tulum because the coastline is sprinkled with a lot of open air yoga resorts with really beautiful views of the Caribbean Sea, which is pretty cool. So lastly, for a bit of an unusual recommendation, more so than Mexico, so the Isle of Arran in Scotland is actually a really cool destination for meditation. So both serious students who just want to dip their toes and try meditation and more experts can come to this retreat. So we'll put the link in the chat for you guys if you'd like to check it out.
Yeah, I think I'd like any of those, especially those retreats by the beach would be so beautiful now. But yeah, I'll just stick to recommending you guys trips. So this trip is taking us to Croatia in Sun Koret retreat, which so many things offered. From 13th to the 20th of June, they offer the Spiritual Healing Week full of meditation and self-reflection with your fellow co-learning mates. So we'll post more here. Feel free to check it out.
So now that we've got an adventure and healed spiritually, it's time to go on to our final category, which will involve culture and art. So there are many interesting activities that can fall into this category. So things like acting classes, dancing, photography, language learning, martial arts, and so many more. But to keep this webinar to a reasonable length, we'll just give you guys just a few of our top picks for this category. So Akshaya, would you like to start us off?
Of course. So next up, we have cooking classes. What better way to celebrate a culture than to learn from its people and how to make their food so tasty. So first we have Tuscany, which is an absolute must for lovers of Italian cuisine and steak. So we'll highlight here the company Tuscany, and there are many offerings of different cooking classes for you to try out on the trip, and we'll post that for you now. Next, we have Paris. When people plan their trips to Paris, they tend to forget that the city is also a foodie's paradise. So American French cooking expert Patricia Wells offers her expertise on the cuisine to travelers in her week-long English language cooking classes in both Paris and Provence. And if you're like me and absolutely love Mexican food, then the Los Dos cooking class on the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico is a must-do. So they've got some trips on the region's lesser-known cantinas with great food, Mayan chocolate indulgent classes, customized food tours, and a full day of taste of Yucatan classes. Again, the link will be posted there. And lastly, for the carnivores, we have got the North Carolina Barbecue Society with its barbecue boot camps to teach you how to make some delicious, authentic Southern barbecue. And Emily will be posting the link for that.
So on to another highlight. So this one involves a 10-day tour of the Amalfi region given by our trip leader Gaetano. So besides the historical aspects of this, you actually get to take cooking classes from a local grandmother. So that sounds really amazing, and it's really the perfect way to immerse yourself, I think. So yeah, we'll post that link in the chat if you'd like to check that out.
So I know with all of these tips, you've made you guys super hungry, but if you're a real cultural foodie, definitely check out our travel food show by one of our lovely team member, Maria Len. So she highlights and tries out some different foods from cultures around the world. And I always get hungry after watching her show. So the link for that is posted.
Okay, now even I'm a bit hungry. So keeping with the food theme, let's move on to wine tasting. So, okay, this one might be a bit of a stretch when it comes to co-learning, but you do learn a lot about wine when you're on a wine tour, so that's something. So first we have the famous Champagne region in France. So you can make an appointment for a tour at any one of the big houses for a delicious descent, as there will be many caves, into wine history. Late fall is an especially good time to visit the smaller producers as well if you're there. So next up is Napa Valley, which is one of the most famous destinations in the US for wine. So there are so many different wineries and tours available. So you can book yourself a wine bus with some friends and get to drinking and also learning, I guess. So third, we have the Carignan region in Spain. So it's both a region, a grape, and a wine in one. So if your travel plans allow, you can stay for the Harvest Festival in early September. I'm not sure if it's happening this year, but we'll see. So it celebrates the start of the grape harvest, and they even have a barefoot grape smashing event, which is pretty interesting. And so third, we have Mount Etna in Italy. So yes, the lava that periodically flows down the volcano also makes for a really great soil for hungry grape plants. So in particular, we'll recommend scheduling an appointment with let's see if I can say this right, Tenuta della Terre Nere, there we go, to test the acclaimed Etna Rosso wine. So we'll post the link in the chat for that one.
Perfect. So before we move on to our last two categories, we'd like to talk briefly about remote working or taking a vacation. So this is an innovative way for those of you that work from home to get out there and explore some of these activities without having to use up all of your vacation days. So in essence, you could get some others together and book a nice location to work or study together during the daytime. And in your free time, you can get out there and explore. So this would allow you to keep on schedule with your tasks or projects, while also allowing you to get out and explore a bit and enjoy the beautiful location and meet like-minded people.
Yes, so our colleague Anna recently returned from a fantastic co-working trip to the Canary Islands. So she had a really great time working, laughing, exploring the island, going on wine tours, and making all of us super jealous. So if you'd like to learn a bit more about how to make your own co-working trip, so Anna will be hosting a webinar on the 26th of May, so next week, taking you through the whole process. So if you'd like to join, we'll be posting a link for that event in the chat. So Akshay, shall we get back on track?
Of course. So our next activity is exploring history. This category involves everything from walking tours, museum, workshops, courses, etc. So the sky is the limit. First up, we have Machu Picchu. Many people come to Peru for the sole purpose of visiting Machu Picchu, and the journey to the ruins can be an adventure. So opt for a guided multi-day hike and camping trip along the famous Inca Trail to reach the site. Next, of course, is Rome. The city is an absolute treasure trove of ancient history, the Colosseum, the Pantheon, St. Peter's Basilica, and so much more that it has to offer. And third, we have Petra. So for those that love impressive architecture, strolling through the red cliffs into the ancient city of Petra, or checking out some Greco-Roman history in Jerash, visiting Petra is an incredible way to interact with the past. So this was seriously one of my favorite historical destinations. And finally, last pick is Egypt for historical tourism. Egypt is so incredibly rich in artifacts and architecture. So you could plan a trip for months and still not even scratch the surface when it comes to learning about the history of ancient Egyptians. So if you're a fan of Italian history that involves more than just seeing Colosseum, through, we got some lovely offerings. So from Gaetano again, of a week-long tour through the history and the beauty of Puglia region of Italy. So this trip runs from 1st until 9th September, and it involves many walking tours in UNESCO World Heritage Sites with spots in Bari, Ostuni, Galatians, and many more. So, all right, Juliana, up to a final activity.
Yes, so lastly, we have painting or like pottery classes, especially ones that get you outdoors and connecting with the art of the region. So first up, we have Florence, Italy. So Florence is absolutely filled to the brim with art. So it offers a variety of different art history, and painting classes for seriously any art lover. Next is Prague. So if you'd like to leave your own mark on the culture of Prague, you can grab some paint and check out the Lenin Wall. It's a Beatles-inspired graffiti hub that anyone can contribute to, which is pretty cool. Yes, so third up, we have Virginia in the US. So for painting as well, so particularly in the beautiful Shenandoah Valley region. We mentioned in particular because there's an entire painting retreat there that you can paint outdoors in a lovely environment. So we'll post more information if you'd like to join that retreat in the chat. And finally, we have Japan for learning pottery. So there are lots of classes, particularly at the Meshito Togai, which is situated in a rural village that's famous for its specific pottery style. And you can actually stay there at their hotel and learn how to do pottery during the day, which is really interesting. So we'll post that link in the chat for you guys.
Perfect. So this is not quite painting, but our next highlight for you guys is this really cool photography trip to New York for 1 week from 25th of September to the 1st of October, where you learn your way around a camera while catching the sight of the city. So a rental camera will be provided for you to capture New York City through its own eyes. The trip leader also has another one of these teaching trips in Cuba as well. So if you would be interested in that, the link will be posted here.
I really would like to join that one. That sounds super cool. So guys, it seems that we've come to the end. So we really hope you guys have enjoyed and feel inspired to start planning your very own co-learning trips. So we've got a lot of other travel-based events planned soon. If you'd like, you can check them all out on our event page, which we'll post for you in the chat as well.
Exactly. And some of our upcoming events include a vacation webinar, which is on May 26th, a Thailand travel inspiration webinar, which is on May 27th, and Morocco travel inspiration webinar on June 1st. So before we start the Q&A session, Juliana and we need you guys to give us a hand.
Yes, so if afterwards you guys could take just 1 minute or 2 minutes to fill out our feedback form so we can just get an idea of how to keep improving our events for you guys in the future. You'll also receive these slides if you fill out the form, and you'll have the chance to win 20 euros or 24 US dollars off of one of our trips. So we'll post that link in the chat if you're interested. So yes, before we go, do you guys have any burning questions for us? So you can put them in the chat, and Emily can let us know if there's any questions there. Or Akshaya, you can read them out as well.
Yeah, I don't think there's been a lot of questions happening. Emily, just correct me if I'm wrong. I don't
No
think
questions yet.
Yeah, so you guys can ask whatever. The sky's the limit. We'll try to answer.
About co-learning or enjoying my trip or travel in general, if you got anything. No questions? All right, so yeah, if there are no questions, then we'd like to thank you guys for joining us. And I'd also like to say thank you to my co-host, Akshaya.
Welcome, and it was lovely talking to all of you. And I hope, yeah, you are inspired and you'll get going with it.
Yes, 1 second. Yes, if you would like to have any more questions, we have actually a forum up on our website. So you can ask some questions to our community, and we'll link that for you guys in the chat now if you're interested. It seems we've got one question there. Any link for updated list of countries with green and no covers? So not specifically. I know Europe actually, as of yesterday, just announced that they're open for travel for all people who have been vaccinated with no quarantine thing. So if you would like to travel to the EU, but other countries, they're kind of on a case-by-case basis at the moment. So I did a webinar yesterday on safe travel during COVID. So if you'd like, you can check that out on YouTube and see what we talked about there. Yes, perfect. All right. So, any more questions before we sign off? No? All right. So, yeah, thank you guys. We hope you feel a bit inspired after everything, and we hope to see you again in some of our future webinars. So, yes. Until next time.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Juliana.
Yeah, most welcome.